Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I will request you all to rise as we welcome the Rwanda Minister of Defense as our guest of honor in this event of the closing ceremony. Thank you. Honorable Minister of Defense, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Captain Ariel Ngabirese Kamana. I'll be your MC for the closing ceremony. Sir, allow me to take you through the series of events that we're going to go through during this event. We will begin by going through a summary of the takeaways from the panel discussions. Thereafter, I'll be humbled to welcome the RDF Army Chief of Staff for his farewell remarks. And then finally, sir, I will invite you for your closing remarks. With your permission, allow me to welcome Colonel Patrick Nyirishema to take us through the takeaways of the panel discussions. Thank you, sir.
The Honorable Minister of Defense, the Chief of Defense Staff, distinguished Land Force Commanders, Excellencies, distinguished participants, I'm Colonel Patrick Nyirishema, and on behalf of the Secretariat, I've been tasked to go through a summary of key takeaways that have emerged throughout the last 2 days. In this room, with all the military leaders and non-military leaders that have been gathered here, we have probably hundreds of years of experience that has been shared. And the breadth and depth of what has been shared requires more time for us to put it together, and we will do that, which will be shared in terms of the report of this symposium. But what I'm going to do right now is to just highlight key takeaways from each session. So we'll start with panel 1, which was rethinking land operations in the era of drone warfare. The first key takeaway from this session is the need for technology adaptation. Drone technology and warfare is here to stay, making proactive adaptation an imperative for defense and security institutions, and this includes research, innovation, and comprehensive training in drone operations. The second point that emerged is collaborative indigenous innovation as a means to develop domestic capabilities through research and development of drone technologies that are specifically suitable in Africa's operational context. And success here depends on robust partnerships which involve private sector, public institutions, academia, and civil society. The third point is on enhancing regional cooperation, which highlighted the importance of African platform for joint training, technology exchange, and coordinated research. The next point that emerged looks like we have some interoperability issues here. Okay. I think the production was trying to make it a little bit bigger, but I think we'll have to do with a small screen. Bear with us. So the fourth point is on strategic and contextual drone employment. Integrated and contextual-aware approach to drone employment is key. This includes the deployment of drones from the theater of operation itself rather than from remote and offshore locations, which is particularly relevant in a conversation about land operations that we've had for the last 2 days. The fifth point under panel 1 is the need for human-centric deployment. A critical principle highlighted was the paramount importance of human agency in drone operations. This means ensuring human oversight, ethical considerations, and decision-making what is normally called human-in-the-loop drone operations. If you can put up, okay. The last point on this is legal and regulatory frameworks. The need for establishment of frameworks that enable responsible deployment of drones while maintaining operational flexibility. For panel 2, I realize it's difficult to read on the screen, so I'll be the one doing the reading here. So for panel 2, the session was about promoting bilateralism as a complementary option to multilateralism to achieve peace and security. The first point that emerged from this session is hybrid approach, and the emphasis was on the need for complementarity between bilateralism and multilateralism when addressing regional security issues. The two mechanisms are best employed by leveraging their relative strengths while mitigating the constraints inherent in each mechanism. In line with this, the second bullet builds on this and talks about establishment of peace through bilateralism. The session recognized that bilateral missions operate under precise and mutually agreed upon mandates, which can be flexibly set to answer urgent and specific requirements. This enables timely and effective deployments to prevent loss of life and to create stable and peaceful conditions. The third point builds on this and talks about sustainability of success through multilateralism. Multilateralism as an effective peacing mechanism can then build on the peace established through bilateralism, in which case multilateral mechanisms are then recognized as better equipped to mobilize resources and sustain the success which is initially established through bilateral mechanisms. The fourth major point that came out of the second panel is the recognition of the evolving security landscape. The operational landscape and conflicts are continuously becoming more complex, often asymmetric, and transnational in nature. International and peace operations increasingly require mechanisms that are capable of addressing the nuanced challenges of modern global conflicts. And the fifth point there is exploring new approaches, again building on the evolving nature of the security landscape. And this is about the need to recognize the collective strength that comes with multilateralism, including resource mobilization, while seeking to complement the long-established multilateral approach with more nimble mechanisms, including bilateralism, but this does not preclude other potential new mechanisms arising in future. So in a nutshell, the two mechanisms in this session is that they are not mutually exclusive, but rather complementary. The third panel was on cementing civil-military cooperation through citizen outreach programs. And the first major outcome of this session is the need to institutionalize civil-military cooperation in defense policy and doctrine. The need to formalize and institutionalize CIMIC within national defense policies and doctrines was emphasized as a key takeaway. Second, promotion of community-driven approaches. There's a need to encourage programs and initiatives that actively involve community members in planning, decision-making, and implementation to foster responsiveness, local ownership, and sustainability. The next key point that was discussed actually quite extensively is the issue of CIMIC funding and resource mobilization mechanisms. Defense and security institutions should allocate dedicated budgets and logistical resources to CIMIC activities to guarantee sustainability and reduce reliance on donor-driven initiatives. The fourth major key takeaway is on building trust among citizens. There is need to strengthen trust through inclusive and transparent communication, and continuous engagement with the citizens, transforming communities into active partners in peace, security, and national development. The next point is on the whole of government approach. This again was discussed quite extensively. Government should foster collaboration between defense, security, and civil institutions for effective interagency cooperation and alignment to prefer responsive CIMIC interventions. The sixth and last key takeaway from this session is CIMIC competence training for security forces. Military and police training institutions should incorporate CIMIC competence, cultural sensitivity, and community relations training to equip defense and security personnel in handling CIMIC activities. The fourth and last panel was on enhancing interoperability among land forces in Africa and beyond. The first takeaway from this session is that peacetime interoperability serves as a foundation for operational interoperability. Effectiveness begins with peacetime interoperability, which serves as the foundation to ensure seamless interoperability during operations. Efficient communication is paramount between organizations, and this needs to be established in advance. The second key takeaway is on overcoming equipment interoperability. A key challenge highlighted is the use of diverse equipment, platforms, and systems which are not interoperable. Countries need to work together to ensure standardization and enable interoperability of equipment among various defense forces. The third takeaway is on harmonization of command and doctrine. Effective interoperability goes beyond equipment and requires harmonization at the level of command, doctrine, and SOPs. AU has documents for standard operating procedures for Africa Standby Force with regards to logistics and training, and could serve as a useful starting point even for the regional standby forces in overcoming this challenge. The next key takeaway is on recognizing the three dimensions of interoperability. The need to deal with interoperability holistically, which includes technical, procedural, and human dimensions. The last key takeaway from panel 4 was on overcoming cultural and political barriers to interoperability. Barriers include language divides and lack of trust across countries, which can be overcome through cultural exchange in military education, developing shared defense industries and technology, establishing regional intelligence and communication platforms, and employment of technological solutions such as AI to address language barriers in joint operations. Sir, on this note, I'll end this brief, once again recognizing that attempting to summarize the breadth and depth of the discussions and the immense experience in this room wasn't an easy task, and we'll endeavor to capture everything that has been shared here and put it in a report that will then be shared through channels of communication that the Rwandan Land Force Commander has already established for this symposium. I thank you, sir.
Sir? The summary and takeaway points by Colonel Patrick Nyirishema on behalf of the RDF Army Chief of Staff have captured almost everything, and therefore I now have the honor and privilege of inviting the Minister of Defense of the Republic of Rwanda to give his closing remarks. Sir, the floor is yours. Thank you.
The Chiefs of Defense Staff, distinguished Land Force Commanders, Excellencies, General Officers, Senior Officers, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As we conclude the second edition of the Land Force Commanders Symposium, allow me to express my sincere appreciation to all delegations for responding positively to our invitation and for your insightful contributions throughout the deliberations. Over the past 2 days, you have collectively examined the evolving nature of global and regional security and reaffirmed the shared commitment to strengthen the capabilities, professionalism, and readiness of our respective land forces. These discussions remind us that we operate in an increasingly complex and unpredictable environment, one where conflicts are asymmetric, threats are transnational, and crises demand decisive action. In such times, the vital role of land forces cannot be overstated. Land forces remain the first responders in a crisis, the stabilizing force during turmoil, and the foundation upon which peace is rebuilt. I commend the Land Force commanders and all delegates for the constructive and highly engaging discussions that have defined this symposium. You have demonstrated that collaboration, openness, and sharing experiences are powerful tools in strengthening collective security. The symposium has highlighted the imperative of leveraging new technologies, particularly in drone warfare and digital domains, reaffirmed the need to deepen civil-military cooperation, underscored the complementarity of bilateral and multilateral mechanisms to restore peace and security, and the critical importance of interoperability and jointness in the conduct of operations. As I conclude, I like to emphasize the importance of partnerships, especially in the areas of joint training and professional exchange, in forging a stable and prosperous future for our continent and beyond. Let me end by thanking you once again for your dedication, professionalism, and partnership. May the bonds of friendship and cooperation strengthened here in Kigali continue to grow, guiding us towards a safer and more secure world. Thank you, and I wish you all safe travels and continued success in your respective endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this being the first Land Forces Commander Symposium on the African continent, it is hoped that the deliberations of this symposium have encouraged other nations on the continent to host the event next year and years to come. Thank you once again for your active participation in this symposium. Welcome back to Kigali. We expect to see you all again next year in the next symposium. Thank you, sir.